Welcome everybody to the IT Documentation Users Group Roundtable discussion with special guests Tracy Harden, Eric Anderson, and Terry Mcadams. For those of you who may be tuning in outside of the ITDUG Facebook Users Group, that's what we are a Facebook Users Group. The direct URL is fb.com/group/ITDUG, or within Facebook, you can just do @ITDUG and tag us or find us anywhere. Our group is all about users of IT documentation systems sharing and learning tips and tricks from each other, which is also exactly what today's webinar is about. And if you want to find any of our past webinar recordings or documentations, you can find them at eurekaprocess.com/categories/ITDUG. And we almost got that shortened to where you can go to eurekaprocess.com/ITDUG. A little bit about our founding and how we got started. Tracy Harden, who's also one of our guest hosts today, founded the group back in 2018. She wanted to learn IT glue because she had it and felt like she didn't know enough about it and couldn't find any other help. So formed this group. August 2018, she expanded it to all types of IT documentation, not just IT glue, and added a new co-admin. By September of 2019, we're at 1,000 members. 10 months later, 2,000, and now we're over 2,500, and we might even be able to break 3,000 by January. The more members we have, the more people we have to share ideas with and from and to help solve our issues. So keep inviting. I am that new co-admin. So I've been helping host this webinar series and maintain the group with our team. I've been in IT since 1994. Not that I'm that old. I just started young. I've owned an MSP, sold an MSP, run some others. I'm also an EOS implementer, and I run a company called Eureka Process. Eureka Process is what we do all day long. It's a lot about coaching, not only in documentation, but in processes, dealing with issues and working with tools that MSPs provide. So I would like to just give you a quick introduction to our team because they're all going to weigh in on some various issues they have pre-planned. But if you have issues you would like to see covered, please send us a chat. Send an email if you have to, we'll get it next time, or use the ITDUG group, or just raise your hand and unmute your microphone. So first up, we have Eric Anderson. I met him about 1.5 years ago, I think, doing one of his exact roundtables. Eric, can you give us a little more about your background?
Sure. As you can see from the slide, I'm currently Service Delivery Manager for Network Technologies here in Kansas. I've had a couple different MSPs I've worked for in various different roles over the years. Lots of different documentation systems. We currently use IT Glue here for our documentation system, and I'm always looking to seek and improve our processes and how we're getting that information and where that information lives. Coursework, Microsoft certified, ConnectWise, ITIL, Fortinet, Sophos. So have a wide range of experience, and right now I'm a leader of a group of 16, a proactive team and a reactive team. So
amazing. Thank you very much for lending your experiences to us today, Eric.
Sure.
And then up next we have Terry Mcadams. He and I think, actually met during the same exact presentation like this we did about 1.5 years ago. We had a great planning session, but Terry's the one that taught me to use tools like Calendly and Outlook because we messed up on time zones. And he was an hour after the presentation, we were like, Terry, we're always like, I thought it was now. And I have, even yesterday, I did some terrible time zone math for New Zealand, and I'm on the Pacific time zone. So it's difficult. Terry, glad you could make it today. Could you give us your introduction, please?
Well, Terry Mcadams, MacTech Solutions. We are an Apple authorized reseller and service provider. We have, let's see, I started this business in my spare bedroom in 1996. When I moved here to Wichita Falls, I was in the Air Force. I was active duty at the time and could only do the IT help stuff part-time. And then I retired from the Air Force in 2004 and hired myself and said, okay, let's get this going full time. And so we took it from there. I had been working on relationships through Apple for a long time, and basically was able to establish myself with Apple in the reseller side and on the service provider side. And so fast forward to, the last few years have been, I'm a budding MSP. We don't have a lot of actual MSP customers. I mean, a handful, literally. I think I have, I don't know, I've got 2 or 3. I mean, that's it, and then I've got some subscriptions and things. I've been sort of beta testing all these things, and ITDUG is our documentation platform. And so we use that. And then, as he has on the slide here, that I actually don't do the Terry's Tech Minute anymore, but I am on Friday mornings, effectively doing the same kind of thing. So Friday mornings between 6 and 8, News Talk 1290. And we are streamed, so you can kind of check it out. I will warn you, it is a conservative right side of the political spectrum radio station. So if you're not into that, don't listen. But if you like to hear and learn things regardless of political view, then come on and check it out. But you can download their app and all that stuff. So, but anyway, that's what we're doing. And so,
very interesting, Terry. Thank you for sharing. Glad to have you on board. And I always hate the phrase, "This person needs an introduction." So, Tracy, introduce yourself.
Will do. Hi, I'm Tracy Harden, founder and president of Next Century Technologies here in beautiful Lexington, Kentucky. I started off working out of my car almost 20 years ago. I started hiring employees in 2012, and I got my first documentation platform in 2018, and that was ITDUG. And like Alan has already stated, I couldn't find any forums on even helping you get started with documentation and processes. So, hey, started a Facebook group. I've always done really well in English, and that's kind of why I gravitate towards processes and writing, because English was my power subject in school, not math, despite the fact that I have a CS degree. English is my thing. So I do a lot of our documentation, but I can't do all the documentation without my staff's help, which is going to be the topic I'll be talking about today, is getting your staff involved. Anyway, love technology. I have 6 folks on my staff, and getting them motivated to do documentation has been a bit of a challenge, but we've been quite successful. So I'll be sharing that with you guys today.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing with us today and agreeing to be on here. I do see that we're kind of all ITDUG heavy here. I will do my best when possible to interject some other systems that might work the same way with some of the ideas that we're talking about. I also use ITDUG, but I also store our internal stuff in file structures with Word documents and Excel documents. I have some folks who are on SharePoint, Passportal, Ocular, some homegrown systems, and I'm hearing a lot of other new names in the market too. So if you guys have other systems you're using, feel free to weigh in and let's talk about it and figure out how this information can translate. 'Cause I do believe most of these ideas can work in other systems. All right, well, Tracy, since we have you, here's the slide we picked out for you. Would you like to share your thoughts on your tips and tricks for documentation?
Sure. So this is getting the staff motivated. I see a lot on our group. I can't, I've got IT glue. Nobody's putting in documentations. Nobody's updating stuff. And I think I've been pretty successful at getting the staff to do it. And I sat down and kind of made some notes for this slide on how I pulled it off. First and foremost, as the leader of your organization, you've got to love documentation. Well, okay, nobody loves documentation. Let's just be honest. But you've got to believe in it. You got to believe that it's going to help your company. So what was really critical is that myself and my service manager are on board, and we actively do documentation ourselves. We both do it. We believe in it. ITDUG is great because it tells you who is doing the documenting. It gives you, credit to the author. So one of the most important things you can do is believe in the product and use the product. I don't know what it would be like to buy ITDUG and then try to hand it off to a staff member. I'm sure you can if that person believes in it and really takes it, but the leadership really has to play that role. We really got to believe in it and want to do it. The reasons for having great documentation are easy. It allows the owners to take vacations and not have to worry about how things are going at the office. So having great documentation also, it gives you peace of mind. Plus, if you ever go to try to sell your company, having all that stuff documented, your processes clearly identified, it's going to add value to your company. So documentation is a win-win. Believe in it and lead by example. So me and my service manager, I found ITDUG. I tried it out. We did a lot of testing and we both loved it. That's the other key. If you try ITDUG and you hate the search on it, then find something else. You've got to find something that works for you. I like the search in ITDUG. I like the way things are organized. It took me a little while to get the hang of it. I did use their online help. Well, I read articles, watched videos, and also used their coaching to help get started. And then it made sense and it clicked, and we really like it. ITDUG, like I said, makes searching easy. If you can't find what you're looking for, switch platforms. There's something out there for you. There's something out there for everybody, I believe. The other thing that my service manager and I did is we made sure documentation is expected. Right down to when we interview people, we stress that we do a lot of documentation and that it is part of their job description. In other words, the unwritten part of that is if you don't document, your butt will get fired. Because we have got to have documentation, and we have, even though we had this in place, we've had employees leave and come to find out they didn't document a device or whatever, and now we're going to have to reset to factory defaults and start over. And that just causes time, money, and headaches for my company. So we are very clear that documentation is expected, and we totally expect all employees to be on board with it. That is right from day one, right from the interview process. So highly recommend that you do that as well. The other thing I did that was very handy is do assignments and ownership. So documentation is like, it's huge. It's not something you can do in a week, 2 weeks, or even a year. We're still documenting stuff. It's a process that's ongoing, never stops. So one of the things I did was I looked out across all the clients and saw that was really hit and miss on how the firewalls were documented. So on the company meeting one morning, I said, this week, everybody is going to document the firewalls they're responsible for. You have 7 days to get these items lined out. So we got on there, I shared my screen. I said, this is how it's supposed to look. I had a model set up, how I wanted it documented. And then each person had their clients. In my organization, we assign lead techs to each of the clients. So that was their job, was to go out there and document it. So, week 1 was firewalls. Week 2 was switches. Well, switches sometimes you have a lot more switches, so that'll take a little longer. So maybe I gave them 2 weeks. Another week came up and I say backups. This is the model. This is how it's supposed to be done. Get all your backups done. Another week I said photos. We like to photograph and take pictures of the racks and the equipment. If for larger size clients, I made that an assignment. So doing the assignments means we can get that documentation elephant down to a much smaller size, one tiny bite at a time, not trying to do it all at once. It made it a lot easier.
When you first rolled this out, did you have pushback like this is costing me more time or I don't have time to do this?
I didn't really hear that complaint from my staff. We put so much into Glue that to work at my company, you have to log into it every day. When I mean everything is in there, even information on our vendors is in there. You just got to be in Glue every day just to do your job. And I think when the employees saw how easy it was to find stuff in there, we have a little knowledge base too on problems that keep popping up. And before you Google, a lot of times you can go to our knowledge base and look for that. Or we'll help each other and say, hey, we fixed that problem. It's in the knowledge base. In the knowledge base, we'll even reference the ticket numbers. If you want to go back to Autotask and find it, you can. I didn't get a lot of pushback. Maybe I'm lucky and I just have a real good team on that. Or, I know some members of my team probably didn't like it as much and, just didn't say anything, but weren't as thorough in putting their documentation in. Like I said, it came back to burn us on a couple of clients. on a couple of client equipment. When that person left, we didn't have the credentials we needed to get into it.
One thing you said, I think is paramount, that once there is a natural reward for using a documentation system, like they literally their questions are answered by going into there. And if they have a reason to open it because they don't have to ask you, they don't have to stop what they're doing, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when you hit that point.
Yeah.
So,
Ain't everybody's doing it. Right up to me, I do documentation. And with IT Glue, it tells you who added what and who the last person was that edited it, and it gives you that little update.
Mm-hmm.
My name's right up there too. I'm not excluded from this process.
Very good. Eric or Terry, anything to add or comment on? Terry, you're muted. Maybe Terry's telling us he's muted. Eric, anything?
Yeah, I just reiterate all of that. That's great information. And I think, getting that buy-in and, having everybody understand that it's a shared responsibility, and to make your job easier and to make you less on call for things and the ability to step away. And, there's also an integrity thing there, right? So as an MSP owner, you're hiring people and that person just left with the creds in their brain and not in a system. So when that becomes a problem evident to a client, now you got to go back and go, sorry, Mr. Customer, we need to reset this or interrupt your infrastructure for a few hours so we can get this reset. And they'll ask why, and it's like, well, we didn't document right. And that's it erodes that trust that we have as MSP stewards, right, with our clients. So
all right, well, thank you very much for that. Don't see any questions in the chat as of yet, so let's go on to our next special guest, if that is okay. We will go to Eric. Eric, please let us know your thoughts. I know we had a little pre-workout on this, and I love some of the stuff you're saying, and I look forward to hearing more.
Yeah, so in my various career, I've been part of small groups, large groups, pods of techs working specifically with clients. So just kind of go over that a little bit. So to echo what Tracy was talking about, it's really important to kind of create that buy-in from the team. And it's everybody's job. There's nothing that's in glue that's permanent. It's a living, breathing thing, and everybody needs to contribute to it and be aware. And when you come across something that's not right, flag it or fix it right there on the spot. So the way we currently are set up, at my current job is we have two different teams. We have a proactive team and a reactive team. So the proactive team is the team leads on those accounts for documentation. So they are the ones that it's their job to go through and make sure the firewalls are set properly and all the passwords are in there and the switches are set up the right way. And we have work instructions in there that basically outline how to do different tasks for certain clients, so we're consistently adding to it, but we also need the support from the reactive team to be able to flag it and say, hey, wait a second, this thing that's in there is 2 years old, doesn't apply in this case anymore. And the team lead of that group may not know that, so it's got to be a constant communication to improve it. And like I said, it's a shared responsibility. So from a client ownership to the tech to small groups or pods, there's varying different degrees of that. And having that, creating the champions of the product, whatever you end up picking, if it's Glue or Passportal or even OneNote or SharePoint, you need those people who are passionate about it, who can answer questions, who can help guide or direct. So it is important to develop those on your team. you're not going to be able to get everybody feeling that way, but getting them subscribed to groups like, Alan and Tracy here have, following what people are talking about around documentation. We always need to improve it. We always need new ways to document or to figure out a better way of how we handle those. So we have a lot of flexibility with IT Glue. It's overwhelming at times what we can do in it. But we have our core, non-flexible assets that have to be, really tight and correct. So we rely on it, every single day. And I can't think of a ticket that we open that we don't open it and use it somehow, nevertheless, keeping it closed all day long because we're just using it that much. And then go into the acquisition there. So I was part of 2 different MSPs that merged, and we had 2 groups of documentation that needed to be merged. And on paper, it's great. It's IT Glue to IT Glue, and you would think everything would transpose easily. However, if Tracy and I compared our IT Glue, they would be very differently set up and very differently configured. Same with Terry. I can compare what we're doing to him, and it's very different. So those are the challenges, and we had challenges, just outside of Glue, but our ticketing system, our RMM product, it was all like on paper, but then operationally, how do you go through and make those changes? And we did really a best practice around each of those things. We looked at the firewalls and we said, what's the best of this one and what's the best of that one? Let's take the 2 and put them together and make a new way. So it's just a constant improvement and constant growth around it. You're never done, like Tracy said.
So one thing that both you and Tracy have in common that I don't know how common that is you, I might go back and define these terms, but you're both set up what I tend to call pods. There are lots of methods for delivering services. Pods is usually something you do that as you're scaling a little bit, you're suddenly too big for everybody to know everything about everyone. Mm-hmm. So you say, I still want that level of service. I'm going to break my clients up into smaller groups of clients and assign a technician or a set of technicians to that group or pod. And that's an alternative to having, like, for example, a live answer help desk where people call in and they get anybody who asks, or a strictly tiered system where tickets just grow from one tier to the next, no matter the client. What do you think about the pod system? I know I'm definitely seeing positives from documentation perspective from both you and Tracy, but you can both weigh in on why pods.
I can go first. For us, it was part of that, right? What is a manageable number that is expected that everybody knows about everything? And for us, it's really in that 50 to 60, from the help desk. I could probably manage 50 or 60 from an account level team lead spot, really 10 or 15 at a time. It's based on a couple different numbers and workstations and how much MRR they bring in and things like that. But it's really it depends how you want to, I don't look at the way we're doing things right now as a pod, but it really kind of is, to your point, Alan, because we do have specialized team leads in those spots. And they're responsible for the proactive piece. So from a customer standpoint, when we moved to pods in a whole, help desk situation where we had a 4-person help desk or 5-person help desk with varying different levels of techs, our clients were getting so much better service, right? So instead of having that large group of anybody calls and answers the phone and has to know, well, I might have worked on this ticket where I might have worked on this client a month ago, but haven't touched it since, so I don't know all the different changes and what's in there and what needs to get done. Whereas if I have that same small group of 4 or 5 people, they're bouncing ideas all day off of each other. They're in teams communicating, they're updating documentation. They have a documentation champion on their team to lead that effort, so there's a lot of positives to it. And then to your point, as you scale even further, you sort of outgrow pods, and then the pods change into a, role-based pod. So now it's your desktop team and your firewall team and your infrastructure or server team. So I agree that regardless of how we set it up, we fall into a pod system at some point, and then maybe grow back out of it or just have a different variation of it.
Tracy, additional thoughts?
Well, so we're half the size of Eric's organization. So we're not quite at the pods part yet. We still have a couple of people on the help desk answering all calls. So we don't have that. We're not at that high a number yet where we feel like we have to break that into smaller groups. But I can understand how that would work. Definitely having my senior techs having ownership, or we call them champions of a client, is very important. They're the ones that know everything about that client, and there is some overlap. Somebody goes on vacation, other people need to know, and they will pull in. My techs are really good about tapping each other on the shoulder to get help with projects. That's really nice. And so everybody knows a little bit about the others, some more so, but having that one champion is really key, and giving them, quote, ownership, unquote. They really like that. I got really good feedback on that. But a question for you, Eric, because you're kind of doing the same thing. You're having all these people, helping out with the documentation. What do you do to make sure it's getting done? I mean, what there was an old saying that says, if it isn't measured, it isn't. If it isn't measured, it isn't done. So how do you make sure that they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing?
So with ITDUG specifically, because that's what we use, there is a way to track engagement, right?
Right.
So I've had teams in the past where we've done either monthly awards or quarterly awards for most engagement or most documents created or most modified or changed. Sometimes that tends to be the same person over and over again. So we put you can only win once rule every quarter. So somebody new wins. But yeah, that's how we encouraged it. And I think you can gamify it a little bit around that, because you are getting some metrics off of it. I haven't seen anything crazy like, a break gauge dashboard that's measuring documentation. I'm sure they exist. I'm sure people are using that.
They do.
Yeah, I'm sure Alan can speak to that. We don't use that, but that could be something that if we're not getting that, you can go that way and make it a KPI and make it something that they're responsible for their job.
So do you have somebody on your staff that goes and looks to make sure they're doing it? I mean, did that firewall get documented? Or do you have a way to tell when, or do you have a way to tell when missing? That's maybe that's a better question.
Yeah, so part of our proactive team is to do an annual we call it a my IT process, which is from True Methods, right? So they have some templates that we go through that have a set of 100+ questions for all of our customers, and documentation is a good part of that. So we go in and verify that those things are documented. We have a backup section of that has 20 questions, and 10 of those is it documented in ITDUG? When was the last time it was tested? Is there a ticket that fires off for testing? So we're going through that annually for most clients, semi-annually for some others, depending on what we need. So we do have some checks and balances there. As a manager, I'll go in and check on new clients that are getting onboarded and make sure that documentation is looking up to what we should see elsewhere. So the onboarding team has their responsibility to get as much information in there as possible before we hand that off to the help desk team. So yeah, there's checks and balances with it, but yeah, it is hard to look at that. I know Glue has that global feature where you can look at all categories and whether or not you have any documentation in there, or if it's a exclamation point or a red plus, I think it is where it's missing. So you can get some standardization across that too.
Okay.
Very good. And an alternative I have, instead of following the True Methods, which is a great program, by the way, if you haven't checked it out, I know somebody's asking about it on Facebook. They come in with basically do it this way. Here's where it should be. Here's how you get there. Here's all the numbers, metrics you need to get there. So it's a really, really well detailed, thought out system. I believe that client onboarding is where you catch most of your documentation. And I also do an annual client re-onboarding, or as Brooke likes to call it, a hospitality visit, because the onboarding them a second time shouldn't take as much effort, but you are checking all the boxes again. Or if you have new security standards you haven't had a chance to roll out yet, that's when you do it, when you're onboarding them each year. That's also, we usually make it a party, bring donuts, t-shirts, t-shirt cannons, cash wind tunnels. I'm exaggerating just a little bit. You make it a fun event, you get them onboarded, and that's your chance to catch up on documentation. And I will add to specific equipment the last ticket on any project that we might do, such as installing a firewall or setting up a new site, is the post-mortem where the service manager or project manager is checking all the documentation before we close the project. At least in those areas. Terry, anything else to add?
No, I think I'm actually here. I guess you can hear me now, because man, I was having all kinds of wacky things going on. So. but it all seems to be smoothed out. So no, that's all great information, and hopefully what I have to offer can make that more efficient for your employees.
Well, let's talk about that, shall we?
Okay. So I discovered, I knew about Text Expander. That's one of the specific apps that I've run across that we're going to talk briefly about. But it's also, I guess, a term, Text Expander, right? It's a general term. It's like Coke. No, it happens to be a soda pop or a soda drink, and also a brand name. And but they used to be just buy the license, just the traditional licensing method, but they don't now. They've gone to a monthly fee or an annual fee. But I did find on the Mac side one called Typinator, and so we're going to talk briefly about those. And then a neat little device right here. It's called the Stream Deck, and you'd think, well, why would I use that in documentation? Well, I'll show you, or at least maybe not specifically documentation, but automating certain processes with a macro, just with a button. So it's pretty cool. So I guess we'll just get started. I want to share my screen so that I can kind of actually show how we use this in our day-to-day basis. So I guess I can click the share button here. No, but it won't let me. So
all right, I'll stop sharing mine.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So then let me bring that up on, I'll just show my desktop. You're gonna, so I'll end up hiding. Let's see, make sure everything's there. Okay. So there we go. All right. So don't laugh at my desktop. I'm
sorry, instinct.
Yes, it's no. But anyway, so we use an application. This is Typinator. And I'll even bring up our, now this is primarily been using in the break fix side of things, but if I'm going to, maybe I'll blur that out at the, no. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to log into our system that we use called Lightspeed. It's our point of sale. We do service repair orders with this. So what we would do is basically pop up here and open up a new document. Well, I'm going to show you on the left side here. You have Typinator, and then well, you don't have to bring that up, by the way, but you'll see what I'm talking about here shortly. So the problem with our service repair order feature of our point of sale is that it's very open. It's not specific to our business. It's used in a lot of different places, a lot of different types of businesses. You might repair motorcycles, you might repair clocks, you might whatever, but this system allows you to use that. Well, we found out that we weren't having consistent documentation with regard to our service tickets when someone would bring in a Mac or an iPad or whatever. And so I discovered Typinator. And so if you look over here on, let's see, service check-in. So here, if you see, we refer to this whack / whatever, and then you have a short code that you type in. So if, for instance, we were going to check in an iPhone for service, we would do / check in iOS. And there goes a nice little, now this is a feature of Typinator. You can create this form, and you can write up and guide the technician through the process of getting things checked in, and it will be consistent. And so this is prompting, so you can do drop down menus, yes, no, or in the case of, what carrier are they using, which iOS version. We need to add 14 here. But you get the idea is it's a form where a form doesn't exist within your own software. And so it's super handy to do, and it's there. So let me show you what a real ticket would look like. SROs. There it is, always. So so we open this up, and here we go. So there is an iPad checked in, and all the information all documented like that. So
Brooke, this is like standard notes on steroids.
Yes, it's really handy. And now I also use it for emails. So if so let me bring up notes here. So if I had an email that I wanted to send about I think is it iPhone that? Yeah, there we go. Wow. Okay. So this is, somebody has inquired via email about getting their iPhone battery replaced. So I type in their phone number, their name, and click on OK, and boom, there's my email. And of course, I can go in and modify this if they had an additional question or something like that, but it's consistent, and it provides just an easy way to, again, that you're not spending all that time rewriting that same email over and over and over, and it's quicker than going and finding a template, copying and pasting, and all of that as well. So that's really the gist of what we use Typinator for. And the forms piece is, and I'm not fully utilizing this at all, but here's the other cool thing about it. Within the application, let me pull that up. Where is, I got a lot of menus up here. There it is. Okay. So Typinator lives up in your menu bar only. But what's cool about it is that you can, let's see where this is. No, I'm looking in the wrong place. You can share these, yeah, here we go. So you can set up and share a particular shortcut or group of abbreviations here. So let me, yeah, see, automatic publishing. Anyway, the bottom line is you can share it through Dropbox or through your favorite cloud storage, or even in theory you can do it locally, but I found it through Dropbox is super easy. But then you have one person that maintains these, and then you update them, and everybody gets that immediately. So they're on a read-only status, whereas whoever's managing it can make those changes. But as you can see, I've got my personal ones right here. Then there's a built-in autocorrect that's a little bit better in some cases than a given text or given application, word processing or whatever. There's some other auto corrections, double caps, and then we've created these, the service check-in. There's even some GSX if, for as a service provider, we use GSX with Apple. and then ordering, things that I have created that make my ordering process to Ingram and Tech Data and wherever a lot faster, and then other things. So, and then my email stuff. So that are there any questions so far on this? I mean, is anybody else using a text expander or anything like this? I mean, you know, on Facebook, if somebody can chime in on that. I know that the question, Veronica had put out a question on Facebook, I guess
and the answers were pretty cool. I see like a +1 for text expander. I see another person who said the word, the application texter, but it looks like it's not being updated. And Auto Hotkey had 2 people mentioning it, which is not very GUI friendly, but they said quite powerful.
Right. Well, there's, I just did a quick Google search, and apparently there's one called Phrase Express here. There's there's a plugin for Chrome. And then of course the big kahuna, I guess, as well. So just search text expanders, and there's a whole, looks like there's a lot more than I ever thought. And there's some good articles out there about it. But on the Mac side, you have text expander and typinator, and there may be more. Actually there are a couple of more that I was reminded about out there, but just look for your whatever you think you want to do. But most of them have a free trial and all that. So I would definitely have you look at this kind of thing. So, but are there any questions at all with regard to anything we do or any suggestions? I mean, this is a learning process for sure.
Absolutely. I know that I keep looking at Brooke because trying to enforce technicians to put in a very common thing for us is next steps. We have developed so many little text-based forms and ConnectWise and templates with Autotask to say, tell us why this ticket's not closed. So-and-so needs to do something. And for each one of our clients, we end up putting in specific questions they have to answer about what's next. And I can see that helping us get that filled in a form and populated the same way every time it's in the ticket. So a dispatcher or service manager can just act versus having to reread the whole ticket.
Right. And just as a, if you happen to be a Mac shop or now the only thing about Typinator is it's all Mac and Mac only, but I believe a text expander, you'll be able to do cross-platform, and there may be others, but but I was just going to give you an idea of the cost. This is, I mean, it's cheap compared to, I guess it's euros, and I don't know what that translated into.
It's about times it about 1.5 for US and 2 for Canada.
Okay, so say $35 there, and then if you buy 8, I think there's a certain number that you get, and you get like a 20-30% discount or something on it. So it's and again, this is, you own the license in this case, and they do updates quite often, and so that, again, that gives you an idea of that. So, well, if there are no questions on that, I want to show you my latest little tool that's really awesome, I think, and I haven't fully exploited it. So, but go ahead.
You held up that device, and the tech in me was like, yes, let's go there first.
No, I got a question real quick, Terry.
Okay.
I got a question on your Typinator, your text expanders. Is there a way to take something like that and drop the information into individual cells into an Excel spreadsheet? Or does it
at least with Typinator. No, with Typinator, you can actually issue or expand with tabs, and most of what you could be typing on the keyboard can then be programmed in. I mean, I'll show you just what it looks like. Any IT person and with their worth of salt should be able to do this. This is it looks weird, but okay, so here's let's see, let me find, I had one for, let me find it, Terry's Typinator, ordering. Okay. Yeah, here's what I use to fill in so that I don't have to, it's on a website. And so it starts in one place and starts putting stuff in different places. And you can see that there's the tab. So you can, so yes, in theory, if you're, whatever keystrokes you're doing within the spreadsheet, then they'll have to, but it'll have to be the same way. I mean, it's not smart enough to know what you're going to exactly do. You know that at least with Excel, sometimes it knows what direction you're going. So when you hit enter, it'll go the direction of to the next cell, whether it's horizontal or vertical. I don't know that this would know if you ever ran into a case like that. I don't know if it would know, but I think tabs and other keys. So again, I'm not familiar with text expander specifically, but I can't imagine that these guys don't have many overlapping features. And there may be some platform specific things. You can't move the mouse. That's the one thing that I would like, is for it to move the mouse, but it won't move the mouse for me.
Real IT guys don't need a mouse.
That's right. So, but that, yeah, so this is just, let's see, there's, yeah, that one's probably, you can, I mean, there's so many things you can do, and it's just a matter of getting it and seeing examples and taking those examples and move and expanding on that. So, but
very good.
All right, any other questions? Does that answer your question, Tracy?
Yes, it did. Great. Some ideas there. That was cool. Thanks.
All righty. All right. Well then, no more questions on the text expansion. So this guy little right here, okay, it's called a Stream Deck. And if you see, and I'll try to do this real time here, there's another icon, at least on the Mac, it lives up in the, well, I may have to dismiss that. Okay, right here, there it is. So this little icon, and the configuration is identical on Windows as well. But let's go to configure Stream Deck. Okay, so you can create little profiles, and profiles can then be assigned, say, to an application. So you can have an application that has its own set of buttons. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to go to the default profile, and you notice there are, now the buttons mirror what's on the screen, and you got those, and these are just little color LCDs. I mean, it's really awesome. You see the mail icon? It's right there. So and what these are is basically a series of macros that you program. And literally, I am just getting started with this. But one of my favorite ones, if the timing is correct, is this one that's labeled distributors. So I'm going to show you what that does. Now, you can't activate anything through Stream Deck, the app, okay? It's only programming. So I'm going to close that up. And now watch what happens when I hit the distributors button. So I'm going to hit that. Now it opens a new window. It goes to Ingram. Now there's some timing things here. It may, oh, it did not, okay, I don't have my 1Password unlocked. See, there's an imperfection in this. So let me unlock my 1Password real quick.
Don't click that I button.
And yeah, so let's see. Okay, so let's try that again. But this is actually kind of fun to play with too. But there is a wait. This is dependent on how fast the internet is that time. So let's see. There it goes.
And you can't multitask while you're doing this, because it needs to have control.
Right. It would certainly interfere during that time. You could go drink some coffee, or whatever you want to do. And see, I basically am taking advantage of my the fact that the way Typinator works with fields, the login fields, not Typinator, I'm sorry, 1Password. So let me back up. Let me log back out here. Sign. Where's Ingram? Okay. Yeah, they changed their site a bit here, but So so basically if we're going to log in here, we're on the login page. So see how 1Password, the plugin for Edge for the Mac, puts our the thing here and automatically puts the cursor right there when you go to that page. And so then with that, 1Password reveals that. So all I'm doing is typing my name, and I'm hitting the down arrow and hitting enter, and then click. I think I'm tabbing, maybe, I forget exactly, and then I hit spacebar. I don't know, whatever it is. I'm logging
Now,
into.
Does your Stream Deck programming require you? Is it going to record what you do, or do you have to like tell it what you do?
No, you pretty much have to tell it, but let me show you what that looks like. When I'm in Edge, it overlaps my icons up there. Okay, so let's see what that looks like on. Okay, so it's 18 actions, and you drag and drop things over. So first thing it does is it opens Edge, which then creates a new window. You have your hotkey Command in. No, I'm sorry, I did Command in. Basically this brings it forward or opens it if it's not already open, brings it into focus. Then the hotkey Command in. I go to this website, so you can specify go to this website, and it basically goes there. I delay 4 seconds. I then I have my login to IM. I tell it to type Terry. I do a down arrow. I then hit a carriage return. I then open a new tab, and I repeat the process for each of the websites. So that, again, there's so many things, but look on the right side here. You've got a lot of stuff that's already done, but you can, on the Mac, you can also run Apple scripts. So if you have created an Apple script that does something, which I have yet to really learn Apple script, but it then can do some things. And I mean, I discovered this thinking, Stream Deck, that's great. It works for OBS and some other video related equipment. That's where I had really seen it. And then I ran across a video that talked about its capability for just doing keyboard commands, nothing to do with video. So does this make sense? I mean, I've also, go ahead.
It is now the only item on my Christmas list. Just say it.
It's 100. Okay, guess how much this costs if you haven't looked. Anybody already looked it up? Who's looked up the price? Yeah, anybody? You have. Okay, it's $150 for this one. It's $99. I think they have a really small one, but I didn't. I mean, that's a price of a really good keyboard, and yet it's so programmable. And and I have a delay, 30 seconds, a 30-second countdown. I mean, and look at it. It updates the little display. I mean,
it's like 15 little monitors.
Yeah, exactly. And you can have you can create one of these that's a page to go page within. You can create groups of these. I mean, it's amazing. And then if I want to bring mail to the front, I hit that, and mail was not open, so it opens mail for me. I heard what was that sound?
Uh-oh.
Okay. I don't know what that was. Oh no, did you hear the sound?
No,
you didn't. Okay, so when the timer quit, it got to the 30 seconds. It made a sound on the computer.
Hey,
so
I made your inbox.
Yes, you did. You're there, Veronica as well. So anyway, so that's really, I think that's enough to whet your appetite and start checking it out. But also, I'll say, when I switch to light speed, okay, watch what happens. So now I have a light speed, so I can, I could have a series of light speed only buttons that work. And so as I switch applications, it will automatically detect that application that you program on here, and it'll have its own set of screens.
Very cool.
I think I'll call that, unless y'all ask questions if you want.
We are short on
I don't
time.
like
let's
it,
get
by the way.
let's get a few questions in there, and let's also ask them for a check to sponsor us next time.
Oh, okay.
Not really.
I'll
don't
see
want
what
to be
I can do.
sponsored.
El Gato.
Any other quick questions on the stream deck? All right.
That
Well,
was
let's
great.
yeah.
Oh,
I
and it comes with
appreciate
this nice little stand, by the way. and it
also
and it
cool.
sits on it like this, and you can set it at different angles and this. Anyway, so there you go.
All right, how do I steal screen sharing from you, Terry?
Oh,
Are you going to stop screen
I
sharing?
can stop it. I'll click on it, and there you go.
That was Terry. Thank you so much for showing us all this really cool gadgety stuff. Now, we are short on time, but if you have tips and questions, you can keep posting them on Facebook, on the ITDUG group. We will get back to answer them. Every single one of us here is a member of that. I try to look at it every day. So post them there. We'll keep the conversation going. So thank you, Tracy, Eric, Terry, for joining us today. Really appreciated you joining us. Here are the resources you can get for more information about documentation and process. You can reach out to us directly, the Facebook group, and on our website, we have all of our group history on there as far as the videos and webinars go. We have decided not to have a webinar in November and December because sticking roughly to our cadence puts us toward the end of the month, which comes up with American Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And we are going to start again in January. And January's topic will be client asset documentation. It is a repeat topic from a year and a half, 2 years ago. However, it's the one topic we failed to record, but was well received. So I felt like since our group membership is quadrupled plus since then, that we would give it another go. Client asset documentation. So how to document what your clients have. We talked a lot about that today in our tips and tricks and how to get it done. We'll probably have some more details about that in there as well. Terry, Eric, Tracy, love to have you back and participating in those as well. So look for announcements on that coming up soon. Any last comments or thoughts before we adjourn?
No, I don't. I appreciate the effort that goes into organizing these and getting the information out. Great discussions this afternoon. Really appreciate it.